Welcome back
to the
Surfcast.
Season 2, Episode 3.
Woo! Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
That's a Beach Boys song.
I'm Jeff.
No Thompson.
I'm Pete.
And Pete and Olivia and Woody and Suze and Ryan.
Woo! Gang's all here.
Attendance is taken.
That's right. So,
Now what?
Who are we interviewing?
Matthew Dunlap of the Secretary of State.
That's right.
Secretary of State of Maine. Way to go, guys.
Big guest today.
Yeah. And
What are we going to talk him about?
what are we going to talk to him about?
What does he do?
What does he do for work?
Yeah.
What is it like to be the Secretary of State, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We're going to stay awake.
Yep.
Alert.
Yep.
And
alert.
And Toss City.
Yeah.
Tall city.
Our longtime
Tall
Strivecast
city.
listeners know that it's a work in progress with Noel to stay awake for each episode, but we are getting there. I can see his eyes getting heavier by the moment.
Not going to.
Okay, sounds good. So, what do you think?
It's beautiful.
Awesome.
Awesome. Should we dive right in?
Yes.
All right.
I would like to dive right into the night.
Okay, then we...
We'll be right back.
All right, we're back, and here's Noel with a bio for our guest, the Secretary of the State of Maine, Matthew Dunlap.
Secretary of the State Matthew Dunlap of Old Town is Maine's 49th Secretary of the State. A native of Bar Harbor, Secretary Dunlap is a graduate of Mount Desert Island High School and attended the University of Maine prior to his career. In public service, he worked extensively in textiles and food service, nonprofit management, the outdoors, and printing, writing, and publishing. During his
Previous
tenure as secretary, he served as president of National Association of Secretaries of State and was named during his
previous
tenure as secretary. He served as president of the National
Association
of Secretaries of State and was named Maine Public Administrator of the year 2008. He lives in Old Town with his wife, Representative Michelle Dunphy, and their daughter Emily.
Hi, you've reached the Strivecast team.
Well, hi, this is Matt Dunlap.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for calling in. We really appreciate it. I'm Olivia, and I'm here with our whole team. You want to introduce yourselves?
My name is Noel Thompson.
This is Noel.
And I'm Jeff.
And that's Jeff.
And I'm Pete.
And that's Pete. The whole team's here.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate it.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Great. Okay. So the guys kind of switch off reading questions. So Noel will go, and then Jeff, and then Noel, and then so on. And we do like a more formal interview round, and then we do a lightning round of some real fun, fast-paced questions. So we'll just dive right in. You ready, Noel?
Oh, yeah.
All right. You got the first one.
What is an average day like as the Secretary of the State?
What is an average day like as Secretary of State? Well, there isn't really such a thing as an average day. They're all different. It depends on the time of year and depends what's facing us in a given moment. Around election time, obviously, the elections division is a pretty important component of what we do. Any time of year, I could be busy with a motor vehicle issue. We're one of 3 states where the Secretary of State has oversight of motor vehicles. Most states, it's a standalone agency like Department of Transportation or part of Public Safety or something like that. In Maine, Illinois, and Michigan, the Secretary of State runs motor vehicles. So it's a little unusual that way. It's probably the busiest part of what we do. I mean, we have about 425 employees around the state working in the 3 divisions, which include motor vehicles, corporations, elections, and commissions, and the state archives, which is physically the largest part of what we have. We have about 10 miles of shelving that go about 2 floors underground at the State Cultural Building, which house about 100 million permanent records going back to about 1639. So it's a pretty busy organization, and so depending on what the day is holding for me, I could be doing any variety of things. This morning I was at a working group meeting at the Department of Fish and Wildlife around plastic worms as used for baits. I used to be the chair of the Fish and Wildlife Committee, and I was executive director of the Sportsman's Alliance of Maine. So sometimes they call on me for things like that, to sit in on some of these working groups. So I did that this morning.
Wow.
And then tonight I'm going to a Cumberland County Town and City Clerks meeting to talk about the upcoming election with them. So, I mean, and then, last week I was in York talking to a Rotary group about Real ID and election security. Yeah. And next week I'll be in Caribou talking about tow truck impounds and honoring one of our longtime employees who's retiring. So there is no typical day.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds like you have a lot to keep you busy.
Yeah,
Jeff, your turn.
Did you always?
Did you always know you wanted to work in public office?
No, I actually never had any interest in politics. And my parents were very interested in politics, but I thought it was just kind of weird. And I went to college in the 80s, and I was a cross-country runner, and I thought I might want to be a teacher and a coach. The world kind of changed a little bit. I had a catastrophic injury, which ended my running career. I had a couple of things that changed in my life, and I wound up actually going into commercial food service. I was a cook for many years.
Wow.
And I had worked in textiles. I went into publishing and printing, and I was working with a young person who was having a hard time paying their school bills. So somebody had suggested maybe, I was trying to help them out, so somebody suggested maybe I call the local state representative to see if there's any state assistance. And this fellow and I became very, very good friends. And we used to go bird hunting together and fishing together. And he eventually talked me into running for the legislature, which took him about 4 years to do. I ran, I got elected. I thought, well, this would be a great resume builder. I'll try it for a couple of years. And that was now 23 years ago. I served 4 terms in the House. I chaired 3 different committees. I wound up getting elected Secretary of State, did that 3 straight terms, and then was out of office for a couple of years. In one of those years, I ran for U.S. Senate, lost the primary, and then came back as Secretary of State in 2012, and now I'm in my final term. So, no, it was never my intent. It just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, it seems to work out well, huh? You are... Go ahead.
What have been some of the biggest issues
you've faced
this year in your role?
Biggest issues we face? Well, it changes. It's changed a lot over the years. I mean, I think when I first came into office, some of the bigger issues we were looking at were some of the emerging uses of technology, and that's still a big issue. Of course, now cybersecurity is still a major thing that we face every day. I mean, it's the kind of thing that it changes all the time. It's hard to say from year to year what the biggest issues are going to be. I mean, I was asked to be on a presidential commission around the integrity of our elections actually about 2 years ago, I was asked to do that, and that got a lot of national attention. So the biggest issues that we face typically involve around people's privacy and security of their information, the integrity of elections, highway safety are major issues. And, right now when we talk about the archives is people being able to access that information online. So digitizing information and also preserving information that was created digitally is a major issue as well.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
some of it's constant, some of it comes and goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Jeff?
Jeff?
What do you?
Do you find to be the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of my job really revolves around trying to support folks who have lost family members in catastrophic car crashes. This is one of the parts of the job that doesn't ever really make the newspaper. But somebody will go through one of these tragedies and they just want to know what the process is as they move forward. There's a lot of legal things that have to happen. Give you a case in point, there was a terrible crash a few years ago down in Bucksport where a couple of kids were racing and one car went off into the woods and a passenger was killed. And the family of the young lady that died was really trying to figure out what the next steps were. What was going to happen to the drivers of the vehicles? What was that criminal proceeding going to look like? What do things look like in terms of a civil lawsuit? And I spent a lot of time with them, helping explain that. And then they went to the legislature looking for better ways to educate young drivers about the dangers of driving recklessly, that type of thing. So, those are probably the hardest things that I have to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't sound
Sounds
fun. Art? No?
What do you find to be the most exciting part of your job?
Most exciting part of my job? Well, I think really working with the public as much as anything. It happens in a lot of different ways. Obviously, people will call the office. They'll make a formal request for, me to do an interview like this. Sometimes I'll just be at the drive-thru at McDonald's and somebody will ask me a question about an elderly driver. The person's selling me a cup of coffee. And I always enjoy, being a resource for folks. I've been in it long enough now that I kind of know these answers to some of those questions without having to look it up. And it happens kind of everywhere. Grocery store, after church, walking down the street after a parade, people say, "Hey, I got a question for you." And I think, that's, you ask what's the most exciting part. I think the most exciting part of the job is really being able to help people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jeff, back your way.
What?
What?
Okay, sorry. What are your goals for Maine?
Short term?
Short term and long term future.
Long term future.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big question, and obviously we want to see people be able to live in Maine and succeed in Maine. I mean, where I live up in Old Town. Old Town's about an hour and a half north of the capital, and it used to be a very heavy industrial center. We had 10,000 people on payroll in the mid-'60s in Old Town. And, back in those days, of course, we had a couple sawmills, we had 2 paper companies, 2 canoe factories, a major bakery center, a woolen mill, 3 shoe factories, on and on and on. And most of that's gone now. Most of what we see in Old Town, we have Old Town Canoe, obviously. Right. And one of the paper mills is gradually, slowly restarting, and LaBrie's Bakery, and that's about it. All the rest of it's gone. So, that's because of the way we've structured things like international trade agreements. And also people get information differently. I mean, we used to, you look at Millinocket, which had 26 paper machines in the Great Northern Paper Mill. It's now a vacant lot because people don't get 2 editions of newspapers every day anymore. So the economy has changed a lot. You know, Maine was once one of the nation's leading agricultural states. Commercial refrigeration changed that. It was cheaper. You know, food buyers could buy food wherever it was cheapest, and that drove a lot of small farmers out of business. I guess what I'd like to see is some focus on what our future looks like. You know, what are we really good at, and how can we support those efforts? And that's not just a long term. That's also every day. That's short term and long term. Is you know, what are we good at? What can we provide people? What kind of opportunities await them? Otherwise, you just let yourself sort of bob in the ocean of world events and just kind of take what comes to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to us.
What is something you're most proud of in your career as Secretary of the State so far?
Well, I think the thing I'm most proud about, you know, the work we do here is the people that are around me and how bold they are and what a good job they do. And, you know, my job is really pretty simple. My job is to support those 425 people that I work with. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm responsible for everything, but I can't possibly issue every single driver's license or every single notary certificate and on like that. It really requires a team effort. And I think the thing I'm most proud of is the culture that we've created where people can feel like they can act independently and be successful here.
That's awesome. Very, very important.
Jeff?
Jeff, back to you.
What?
Okay. What is one thing you wish everyone know about your job?
The one thing everybody knew about my job, well, I think when people think of the Secretary of State or any of these highly placed governmental positions, they probably think of it as being very remote, you know, something that you can't just ever call the Secretary of State. You know, there's always a 1-800 number to call. I think I'd like people to know about the job is about helping people. You know, that's our job, is to help people navigate the things, you know, the systems of government to get the things they need. You know, we touch about 1 million people a day. You know, we license over 1 million drivers. We register 1.5 million motor vehicles and have car titles for those vehicles. We, you know, run elections for all county, state, and federal offices. We do all the statewide referenda. We support towns and the town clerks in that work. Somebody who's traveling abroad, they want to go to, say, you know, you're a teacher and you want to go teach in England. Well, they want to know that your teaching certificate is real. So we manage an international process under the Hague Convention called the apostille process. And we provide documentation of authenticity of documents. Somebody who needs a notarization, you know, we have 27,000 notaries, and they're all agents of the Secretary of State. And we register something like 80,000 corporate entities. I already mentioned, you know, the 100 million permanent records. All that is there to help people. It's not supposed to be some sort of fortress. You know, it's open to them. And I wish people, you know, sometimes, I'll give you a quick example. I was coming out of the grocery store one day in the wintertime, a lot of snow and slush on the ground, and I'm walking out of the store, and there's this older lady on crutches and a cast on her foot. She'd obviously broken an ankle or something. And she had like 3 bags of groceries in each hand as she's limping along in her crutches, trying to go sideways to get to her car. And I went over and I helped her. And I said, you know, not for nothing, but I am the Secretary of State, and I can get you a parking placard so you can get one of those fancy parking spaces right in the front of the store. And she said, well, how do I do that? I said, just give me your address. And we sent her one, you know. So people don't think to say, well, geez, I'm on crutches for 3 months. I could really use a parking plaque. I think, oh, that's for somebody who's disabled. Well, you know, you can be temporarily disabled too. And our job is to help people get through that.
I think a lot of people didn't know it was that simple. That's really interesting.
Oh, yes.
So those are all of our more formal interview questions, and now it's time for what, Noel?
Lightning round.
The lightning round.
All you have to do is lightning.
Okay, so Jeff goes first in the lightning round. So Jeff, you got this one? Go ahead.
You have to do it.
Augusta?
Augusta or Bar Harbor?
Oh, Bar Harbor. That's where I grew up.
Nice.
Cool.
Fishing or hunting?
Fishing or hunting?
Well, the problem with hunting is that the best hunting usually happens at very uncivilized hours, like 5 in the morning around sunrise. So I think on a casual basis, you can go fishing any time of day. So I think I'd probably go fishing first.
That's a good answer. Jeff?
Tough one. What?
What is your favorite thing about Maine?
Favorite thing about Maine really comes back to the people. You know, I was working as a cook for many years, and because I wasn't married and didn't have any kids at the time, I often volunteered to take the holiday shifts at the university so the football team could have dinner. I'd stay and I'd cook it. And one year I forgot that it was Thanksgiving and all the stores were closed. And I'm sitting there in my apartment thinking, well, I'll go down to the Quick Stop and get myself a microwave cheeseburger in a little while. And this guy shows up, knocks on my door, and he had a plate of Thanksgiving dinner.
Aww.
You know, he had heard that I'd forgotten, and he just brought me a plate of food. And that tells you a lot about the people of Maine. And that's what I think my favorite part of the state is.
That's really nice. Back to us, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, skiing or snowboarding?
You have a preference?
I've never done either one.
Oh, wow.
So my idea of a winter sport is sitting by the fire.
That's a great answer.
That's usually
Us
my
too.
go-to.
Yeah.
All right,
Jeff?
Favorite Maine restaurants?
Favorite Maine restaurant, I have to say, is Pat's Pizza in Orono. That's where I worked for many years. I worked for Pat. Who doesn't like a good pizza?
That's
Aw,
right.
True that. Noel,
If you
if you could,
have any superpower, what would it be?
Well, I think the real question is if I could have any other superpower.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. What would it be?
I really don't know. I guess I probably would like to be anonymous. Anonymous would be a good superpower to have.
Yeah.
Public office.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Jeff, and you got the last one.
Okay. Tell us your best joke.
Tell us your best joke, if you have one, and if you don't, these guys have plenty.
Well, probably the best joke I can think of off the top of my head is that you don't need a parachute to go skydiving. You just need a parachute to go skydiving twice.
Oh, get it? That is a really good one. Got one, Jeff? You want to share one too?
Yeah.
Go for it.
You
You want to do a knock-knock joke?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Knock.
Who is there?
Owl.
Owl who?
Owl you.
Owl you. Thought that one was coming. Jeff ends every joke with blank you, so could have predicted that one. Owl you, parachute you. All right. Well, thank you so much, Secretary Dunlap, for coming on our show. We really,
thank
really
you.
appreciate it so much.
All right, you're very welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
We'll be right back.
Okay. Bye-bye.
The Strivecast is brought to you by
Listeners like you.
Listeners like
you
and
me.
And
Your friends.
Dom and Joy.
Dom and
and
Julie.
Julie.
Thanks for listening, Dom and Julie.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dom and Julie.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
And
We'll be right back.
We're back, and it's time for our new segment, Ask Noel.
No, if you had a ball, if you open up a door, let the Noah in and ask Noel.
Yeah, if there is a door, open up and ask Noel. All right, so we received an email this week.
Strivecast at pslstrive.org.
Ding, ding, ding. You can write in your questions to Ask
Use the
Noel.
subject Ask Noel.
Correct.
Yes.
And Jenny in Scarborough, Maine asked, Noel, I'm having a toothache. How can I get rid of my toothache and maybe have better oral hygiene?
That's easy.
Yeah?
Go to the dentist and get the drill.
Go to a dentist and have them drill it out?
Might
Yeah.
not even need the drill, but go to the dentist is probably a good idea.
Mm-hmm. How else can she avoid tooth pain in the future?
Keep on flossing and brushing.
Yeah, good answer. Maybe use a little mouthwash,
Yeah.
clean it up.
And put a little gum into it.
Okay.
Okay.
Jeff is chomping at the bit.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Chomp chomp.
How to prevent tooth injury?
Tooth injury. Yes.
Always floss
Yeah.
and use mouthwash. And if it still hurts, go to the dentist and make an appointment with your dentist.
Good answers. Great job, guys.
That was good.
Pete, what was the other question we got this week?
Well, we got one from Steve in Tallahassee.
Wow.
Our Florida contingent.
That's
is
right.
Chiming in. And he says that he is trying to think about if he should buy a birthday gift for someone that he likes.
Ooh.
Oh,
But he doesn't know if they feel the same way about him.
Ooh.
What should he do?
Good question, Steve in Tallahassee. Well, let's ask Noel, so let's have Noel answer first. So,
Say that again, Peter.
Steve writes something along the lines, I'm summarizing because it's a very long email, but that he is interested in buying a gift for his friend that I think he likes a little bit more than as a friend.
maybe got a crush.
But he doesn't know if his friend likes him back in that way or not. Should he or should he not
Buy the
buy
gift.
a birthday gift?
Be yourself and
Should he get the birthday gift or maybe
yeah.
not?
Yeah, no.
No.
Which one?
Talk to the person.
See if they want a birthday gift.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to be dating someone to give them a birthday gift, right?
Or you can get a gift and say how beautiful it was.
And say what?
Talk about how beautiful it was.
Oh, how beautiful they are.
What if that makes them uncomfortable?
No, not that. If it's a romantic gift.
Well, that's what he's trying to figure
Should
out.
he do the romantic gift or no?
If he's not
yes.
sure if they like him too.
Oh.
Jeff is anxious to chime in. Would you like your co-host to give you some help?
Yes, right there, my China doll.
My China doll.
Okay, cool. I actually recommend a speedboat.
As a
A
gift?
speedboat? Wow. Like a toy speedboat or a real speedboat?
A real speedboat.
Well, that's a very expensive birthday gift. Although I guess it's Tallahassee, so they can use
Right.
it more than us here in Maine.
Yes, I mean, you should go the extra mile.
You should go the extra mile.
Buy him a speedboat.
Buy him a speedboat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Forget a necklace.
I've known
Go
you
the
for
speedboat.
20 years. You've never bought me a speedboat.
What?
Or even
I have not.
or even a sandwich.
I'll buy you a sandwich.
Buy Pete a speedboat, Jeff.
Um.
Because you love him.
Yes.
I guess that's the other twist, is it's a
Right.
potential romantic gift.
Right. So sorry, Steve. I don't know that we really
Yeah.
answered your question for you, but good luck.
Yes. Always buy your friend a necklace.
What's this?
Buy your friend a
necklace?
necklace. That's a
What?
good answer. All right. This has been interesting.
All right, Susie wants to chime in on Ask Noel.
Okay.
Well, I think that he wouldn't.
He shouldn't do it?
He wouldn't do it because he is a young man, for one,
Well, we don't know his age, but
Yeah.
and another, he does not want to do it because he forgets their only wife's birthday.
I don't think he's married.
if he is, that's a whole different question from
Yeah.
Steve. Steve, write us back.
Yeah. Are you married or are you not married?
Because if that would be a little different
be
story,
different.
he was married.
Wouldn't
Right.
want that, right?
Right?
Okay.
Right.
How about a card?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great idea.
Yes. Yes.
Card.
Wow. All the good ideas come out on Ask
Heavy
Noel.
dog.
Or
Or
a
a
hairy dog.
heavy,
Heavy dog or hairy dog?
Heavy dog.
Hairy dog or a speedboat? Your choice, Steve. It's up to you.
Honestly, you're welcome for these great
Yes.
suggestions.
So,
Oh,
Noel, tell them the number to call for the Ask Noel. What do they do if somebody else wants great advice? Like,
So if you want to ask your question on the air, it is 207-774-6278, extension 355. 772.
Leave a
your
voicemail.
For
message
Pete Brown.
for Ask Noel, and Noel will answer it and give you great advice on the air, okay?
Yes.
Or you can write it like Steve and Jenny did at strivecast@pslstrive.com.
If you do leave a voicemail, some of those we hope to play right here on Ask Noel. Okay?
We'll be right back.
The Swamcast is brought to you by.
Your ad here.
Your ad right here.
Yeah.
Who should advertise on this show, you guys?
Everyone.
Everyone, that's right. Who wouldn't?
Everyone, including Pete, who's right here with us.
Thank you. If I had a product to sell, I would definitely sell it right here in the Strapcast.
Yes, bring a pair of glasses.
I don't sell glasses. But how could they reach us if they'd like to advertise?
Actually, I have a good one.
Okay.
Send us an email.
That's right. At strapcast@pslstrive.org. Or they could
Call us.
That's right.
Put it on Twitter.
at 774-6278 and leave us a message if they'd like to advertise, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like a great way to get involved with the Strivecast. Yeah, Jeff?
When are we gonna have?
We'll be right back.
And we're back, and it's time for Jeff's segment, which is
Jeff time.
Jeff time! Woohoo!
Theme song?
No.
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 No theme song. Introduction?
Introduction.
Welcome to Jeff time.
Jeff
Welcome
time.
to Jeff time. And Yakking
Starring Jeff.
Woohoo!
Take it away.
Is it Jeff time, comma, yakking with you?
Yeah.
Ooh, combination. Okay.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today in this segment? Not marine life, because we did that last week.
No. We're talking about wildlife.
Wildlife.
Wildlife. Okay.
What are we talking about wildlife today?
I mean, like giraffes. How long are their necks?
How long are their necks?
Really long.
Really long. Good to
Really
know.
long you.
Really long you.
Really long.
I
You.
thought that was a joke. Sorry.
I think I need a sex feed.
Okay.
I do have a question about dinosaurs.
About dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs,
Go
so
ahead.
those count as
Anything
wildlife?
goes.
Yes.
Okay, over to
Yes.
Noel.
What kind of dinosaur is a long neck?
Is a long neck. Brontosaurus.
Is this from the movie?
A brontosaurus.
Glad we checked in about the dinos. What else do you want to talk about
They
wildlife?
show up.
Sea turtles.
Sea turtles. What
Back
about
to
them?
marine life.
Sea turtle.
Sea turtles can swim in the ocean and eat seaweed.
I don't know if they eat seaweed, but they do swim in the
Sea
ocean.
turtle.
Expert on sea turtles?
How about
I watch
snapping
Blue Planet.
turtles?
And for wildlife, how big is a savanna?
How big is a savannah?
Oh, I know what savannah is.
Savannah.
The Lion King. What's a savannah?
Savannah is like a desert.
Yep.
No, it isn't. It's like a plain.
No, it's a gorge.
It's a gorge? I don't think so.
Yes, it is.
This is the second time we've used the word gorge
Like a
on
stone.
the Strapcast.
When was the first?
I don't know, we had to Google it to make sure we were using it right.
Okay.
A
Producer
gorge.
Susie is telling us that this segment is not very
happy.
good.
A gorge is where wild buffalo runs really, really fast.
I think the gorge is where they drink water.
Yeah.
They told.
What about the
Pete is
antelope?
Googling. Drum roll, Noel.
And also, in the gorge, it's where you kill lions.
No way.
I have another.
Lions are king of the
A
jungle.
gorge is a narrow
I
valley
have-
between hills or mountains, typically with steep rocky walls and a stream running through it.
Ding, ding, ding.
It also can mean eat a large amount greedily, fill oneself with food.
To gorge as a verb.
I
Yes,
have-
Noel, raising his hand.
What is a antelope?
What is an antelope? Jeff?
A envelope.
Antelope. Antelope.
Antelope.
Mm-hmm. Jeff is moving his arms wildly.
It crawls under the ground.
I don't. That's an ant.
No.
No.
A antelope.
Pete, Google what is an antelope.
I know.
Oh, go ahead, Noel.
The antelope is in the wildlife with lions. When all scenes die, the antelope eats the grass.
They eat the grass, or do they eat on like dead other animals?
Dead other animals.
Okay.
Then the animals eat the grass. And it depends on circle of life.
Circle of life. Pete, what did you just find out on the
An
internet?
antelope is any of several African mammals of the family of Bovidae, distinguished by hollow horns, which, unlike deer, they do not shed. Related, what do two ants do when they don't want to get married?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know what.
They antelope.
The antelope!
Boo!
That's a good one, dude.
I just made that up.
All right, Jeff, anything else you want to talk about before this segment?
Yes. What do you think about lions?
I think we'll be right back.
How do they groom themselves?
How do they groom themselves?
Oh boy.
Licking with the tongue.
Back to Google.
And
We'll be back.
We'll be right back.
we're back, and it's time to
Wrap it up. Time to wrap it up.
Pack it up.
Pack it up.
pack it up.
Pack
Let's
it up
pack
and
it
wrap
up.
it up.
Bring it
Let's
home.
Back it up. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up together.
Oh, they're having a little jam over there. I love it. Thank you so much to Secretary of State Matthew Dunlap for coming on the Strivecast. We really appreciate it, and I learned a lot. Did you
So did
guys?
I. That
That
was
was
great.
awesome.
Oh yeah, me too.
That was really awesome. So thank you so much to him for coming on the show. Thanks as always to our producing team of Winnie and Susie. Ladies, thanks for holding it down.
High five by
High
the
fiving in the corner.
Yes.
producers over there.
Wait, he's getting
Yeah.
slapped real
Double
hard.
high five.
Yeah. Thank you so much to our amazing engineer Ryan for putting the show
Yay.
together and making all the
Best
sound
one
happen.
in the whole world.
Amazing, as always. And thanks to you, our listeners, right, for tuning in, right, guys?
Oh yes.
Thank you,
That is
listeners.
correct.
Absolutely.
So, what are our updating events, Noel? What's tomorrow? The Strive auction! Whoop whoop!
Yay!
Auction.
The Strive's 15th annual auction. It's not too late to get involved, but
That's
you gotta
right.
do it now.
Now, today's the day. So it's tomorrow night, Wednesday, October 23rd at the Italian Heritage Center in Portland, Maine.
PSLStrive.org/auction. You
Yeah.
can get your tickets online or just show up at the door.
Show up at the
Italian
door. We
Heritage
will
Center.
always welcome you. So see you there. Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else? Are we all set?
I will say, and Pete will say it on my side.
You're spoken
Guess
for.
I'm set. I would also just throw out that we do have our Strive's 20th anniversary
Yeah.
coming right up. And it's on January 25th of 2020. So we're more to come on that, but save the date.
Save the date. We'll see you there.
Party that only happens once every 5 years.
Yeah, don't miss out. All right, you ready to head out?
Yep.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next week.